Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into the massive engineering puzzle of turning flat 2D line work into a fully functional professional 3D road corridor. If you've ever wondered how civil engineers make sure digital roads seamlessly snap together in three-dimensional space way before a single shovel actually hits the dirt, well, you're in exactly the right place. Nailing this digital puzzle is absolutely crucial. It's literally what prevents millions of dollars in poured concrete disasters out on the job site. So we're going to look at exactly how road corridors function professionally, peeling back the software mechanics that make these huge infrastructure projects possible.
Here's our agenda for today. First up, the core road corridor. Then, establishing secondary baselines, accommodating widenings and targets, splitting regions for intersections, modeling the curb returns, and finally, visualizing the final design. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. The core road corridor.
Okay, our very first challenge is laying down the foundation for the primary roadway. Because, before you can build an intersection or worry about complex grading, you really need a central spine. So to create our initial road, let's call it the NYC corridor, we have to combine three specific elements. Think of it like a formula. By linking our 2D road alignment, the vertical design centerline profile, and the full cross-section assembly, boom, we generate our 3D corridor. But it doesn't just float there in empty space. We have to explicitly target it directly to the existing ground surface. That tells the software exactly where the bottom of our digital road meets the real-world topography. Once that's locked in, we've got a functional single road corridor.
Moving on to Section 2. Establishing secondary baselines.
Right, so with Road 1 laid down, we obviously need to introduce Road 2 into the model, and this brings us to a fundamental CAD concept. Now, what's really interesting here is that by adding Road 2's alignment as a baseline, we're essentially giving the software a designated path to sweep the new assembly along. It's the anchor. Without that baseline, the software has absolutely no idea what direction or path the road should take. But once we define that baseline with Road 2's specific design profile, it turns into a fully active region. Suddenly, our isolated road has a neighbor.
Section 3. Accommodating widenings and targets. So here's the tricky part. What happens when our road isn't just a perfectly straight line with a uniform width? Because real roads have variations, right? In our source project, for instance, we have to accommodate a specially widened gate area. So the question becomes, how do we force the digital corridor to recognize a custom widening? You'd probably think modern software is smart enough to just figure it out on its own, but honestly, it can be incredibly stubborn. The corridor won't just automatically snap to custom widenings. It stubbornly wants to blindly follow that standard width you gave it initially. That means we have to actually dive into the properties and manually edit the software's targets to force it into the exact shape we need.
And this is where the real magic happens. By replacing that default automatic targeting with our specific Road 2 left offset alignment, the corridor perfectly flares out. We literally go into the target menu and tell the width and the elevation, hey, ignore the standard assembly and follow this custom gate profile instead. Instantly, the whole 3D model adapts, spreading out to perfectly match those custom gate dimensions we engineered.
All right, Section 4. Splitting regions for intersections.
Let's look at how this builds into the climax of our digital puzzle, physically connecting Road 1 and Road 2 together to actually form a working intersection. You can't just mash two digital roads together. If you do, the software creates a total tangled mess of overlapping materials. No way. To build an intersection professionally, you actually have to tear a precise hole right in the existing road. We do this by selecting our main corridor region, splitting it exactly at the curb endpoints using snaps, and then completely deleting that centerpiece to open up space. We are basically carving out a literal blank canvas right in the middle of the highway.
Which brings us right into Section 5, modeling the curb returns.
Okay, with that isolated space now opened up, we manually model those complex corners, which professionals call curb returns. This step takes extreme precision and care, because these corners have to perfectly bridge the gap between our two separate road systems. The workflow is highly structured here. We add our 4 curb returns as fresh baselines, and then we sweep those regions right around the open corners. But to stitch the whole intersection together perfectly, we have to explicitly target both the width and the elevation of these new corners all the way back to our primary road center lines. Basically, we're telling the software, start at the curb and stretch out until you perfectly hit the exact center of Road 1 and Road 2.
And this brilliantly highlights a very real professional hurdle. Sometimes the software leaves these tiny micro gaps. Even if your targets are set up perfectly, the math just might not align exactly at the center point. When that happens, we have to go in and force manual frequencies, think of them as structural checkpoints, exactly at the intersection center. By telling the software to calculate a cross-section at that exact coordinate, Every single digital line is forced to tie together flawlessly. It essentially seals up those microgaps for good.
And finally, Section 6, visualizing the final design.
So the crucial question is, once all these pieces are finally placed, how do we prove this complex intersection actually works structurally? How do we know it isn't just looking pretty from a top-down view, but is actually a sound, fully integrated 3D model? Well, professionals validate their final models using 3 distinct tools. First, they use the Object Viewer for a quick, rotatable 3D visual inspection to spot any glaring glitches. Second, they can run a virtual test drive, sort of traveling down the corridor in a conceptual or wireframe simulation to dynamically experience the road surface. But the ultimate test of structural integrity relies on tool number 3, section views.
Section views allow you to essentially slice the road like a loaf of bread. By pulling up a section view exactly at chainage 2500, which is basically a digital mile marker right where our main road meets the intersection, we can analyze a direct cross-section of our work. Fun fact here, an intricate intersection model like this can contain tens of thousands of individual data points. Moving slice by slice through the chainages lets us mathematically prove that the widenings and center ties are behaving exactly as engineered. If the road slopes perfectly from the crown right down to the targeted curb, the model is a massive success.
To wrap up today's explainer, always remember that a completed digital corridor is about way more than just drawing lines on a screen. True professional modeling is about relentlessly establishing baselines, manipulating targets, deliberately splitting regions, and heavily verifying those cross-sections to ensure the whole system functions as a true, continuous entity. The next time you're driving through a perfectly smooth intersection, take a second to consider the invisible digital puzzle beneath your tires. I mean, if a software model requires this much obsessive precision just to merge 2 basic streets, imagine the insane digital gymnastics required to build a massive, multi-level highway interchange. Now that is a puzzle for another explainer. Thanks for joining me.